Hi everyone, welcome to another video tutorial. In today's lesson, we're going to be learning about subplotting in Matlab or Octave. Let's get started. I have a .m file open right now in my editor tab in Octave. At the top of my script, I have three basic best practice programming commands. CLC will clear our command window. Clear all will clear any existing variables in our workspace. Close all will close any existing figures present in our Octave environment. And this is important to make sure we're not overwriting any existing figures and we're generating fresh figures every time we run our .m file. I also have an X vector. It's a row vector containing 5 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I also have 6 Y vectors, Y1 through Y6. Each of these vectors contains 5 different elements the same length as vector X, and they just basically contain some random numbers. We're going to be generating a subplot today in Octave, and we're going to be subplotting Y1 through Y6 on the same figure. We're going to be generating a subplot that looks something like this. We're looking to have a subplot with 3 rows and 2 columns. For subplotting in Matlab, we're able to refer to these different plots on our figure from the top left-hand corner of the screen, and we read from left to right, top to bottom, starting at the number 1. So our top left graph is the number 1, followed by the number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Back to our code here, we'd like to generate a subplot. We'll do this with the subplot command. Our subplot is going to have 3 rows, which is our first argument, and 2 columns, which is our second argument. We're going to begin our subplotting with our very first graph, which is right here in the top left-hand corner. For our third argument for subplot, I'm going to type the number 1. This will indicate that we would like to start on that first plot. The very first thing I'm going to plot is Y1 versus X. So I'd like to plot X along my X-axis and Y1 along my Y-axis. I'm going to use the plot commands. The first argument for plot is our X-axis variable, which is capital X, and our second argument is our Y-axis variable, which is Y1. I'm going to run this code to show you so far how our subplot is generated. I'll make this a little bit bigger, but you can see we've begun to create this figure here. And we've started our subplotting with this very first plot right here in the top left-hand corner. You can see that this is our Y1 versus X plot, and it's up here in the top left-hand corner. Now we're going to move on to subplotting for our second plot in the top right-hand corner. I'm going to continue programming here, so I'll type subplot again. This is a subplot with 3 rows and 2 columns, but we're going to subplot now on our second plot, that top right-hand corner plot. Here we're going to plot Y2 versus X. And if you take a look at the code here, notice that our first 2 arguments for subplot do not change. Our subplot still consists of 3 rows and 2 columns. This isn't any different from our line right here to generate our first subplot. It's still 3 rows and 2 columns, but right now we're moving on to that second plot area. We're going to this top right plot. I'll run my code so you can check out the graph that we're generating. I'll make this a little bit bigger, and you can see that we now have subplots 1 and 2 complete. We can go ahead and continue coding on to generate the rest of our plot for our figure. So this subplot will be for our third subplot. We're going to be plotting y3. We're going to plot on our fourth subplot. We're going to plot y4. On our fifth subplot, we'll plot y5. On our sixth subplot, we'll plot y6. Upon running my code, you can see that the full figure is now filled up with plots 1 through 6, all on the same figure. It takes a little bit of time for Octave to complete this task. I'll make this a little bit larger so you can all see. We have our y1 plot, y2 plot, y3, y4, y5, and y6, our 3-row by 2-column subplot. Now let's go ahead and add some axis labels and titles to our subplot. We'll have to do this for each individual plot within our figure. So here we'll create a graph title and we'll call this y1 versus x. We'll add an x label. Our x label in this case is just x, and our y label is going to be y1. I'll run my code and we can check out the figure that gets generated. This title, axis label for our x label, and axis label for our y label are only going to be created for our first plot within our figure. So I'll drag the corner to make this a little bit bigger, and you can see that x label, y label, and title right here on our very first subplot. In order to generate the title, x label, and y label for our remaining plots on this figure, we'll have to go ahead and write similar code in order to do this. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy paste. And instead of y1 here, I have y2. And then here for our y3 plot, I have y3. Under our plot for y4, I'm going to change this to y4. Under our plot for y5, I'll change this to y5. And under our plot for y6, finally, I'll add the last title, x label, and y label. So you have to see that we have to repeat this process for each individual plot on the subplots. I'll go ahead and run my code and we can check this out. Takes a little bit of time in Octave to fully generate everything. I'll drag this upper right-hand corner and make this a little bit bigger. And you can see our completed figure with all 6 plots generated together, our 3-row by 2-column subplot. And that concludes this video on subplotting. Thanks for watching.